Welcome, everybody. I've got Steve with me, and we are here to talk more Star Trek CCG. So, Star Trek is celebrating 30 years
Hmm.
of gaming. And so, we thought we'd do a little bit more content on Star Trek. And today, we're going to talk about First Contact, which is how Decipher soft rebooted the game. So, I have
Yep.
my game master, Steve. Thanks for joining me, man. Always a
Thanks. Yeah,
pleasure
it's
to
great to be
have
back on.
you on.
Thanks.
But he put together a slide deck. We got some fun in store today. So let's get to it, Steve. So let's talk about First Contact. What
Mhm.
set was this in Star Trek, and where did it kind of fall in the game? So the game came out in '94. So this is roughly 3-4 years after.
Yep, this is 1997, and this is the fourth full-size expansion set for the game. There was a smaller boutique product, the Fadra collection, in between, which was like 20 new cards. But this is the fourth full-size set. And so why this set's really interesting is originally Decipher only had the license to Star Trek: The Next Generation, the 7 seasons of that TV show. And that was because there was another company, I think it was Fleer, that had the license, the original series for trading card games. So they had to restrict themselves to just Next Generation. Um, and they thought early on that they probably had enough content for 5 expansion sets at most, and then they would just wind down the game. So they produced Premiere, Alternate Universe, and Q Continuum. And at some point, I think they announced their plan was to do 2 more sets, Holodeck Adventures, and All Good Things, and then wrap the game. But I think the game was a bit more popular than they expected, and they saw more potential with it, and they were also able to acquire the license to a lot more Star Treks. So around 96, 97, they got the license to the Star Trek feature films, all the ones that were out, and I think the license included all future feature films during the time that they had the license, Deep Space Nine and Voyager. So that really opened up their options for the game to obviously more content, but also like more different affiliations, themes, and so forth. Later on, they get the license to the original series. I think they even had the animated series, although they didn't ever really exploit that license, and the classic films with the original series crew. So the first thing that they did is decided to make Star Trek First Contact because the movie First Contact had only come out about a year before that in 1996, and it was a huge hit. It was, I think, the top
Mm.
grossing Star Trek film of that time, and one of my favorites, like a lot of people's favorites. So they made a set focused just on that one film, and it's the only time they'd make an expansion for this game based on only one movie. So it's a little more focused, and like kind of like how the Star Wars sets are focused on just like a narrow events. This set's just focused on that one movie.
So it's
Um,
interesting to me that the game came out in '94, let's say '94,
mhm.
'95, and they only had 4 sets out in
Yep.
4 years, which
Mhm.
is such a different pacing than a modern CCG, which is
Yeah.
4 sets a year, 3 sets a year, maybe at least 3 sets a year, right? And it's interesting
Yeah.
that they
Yep.
only did basically one a year. It just shows how the industry has changed and evolved into getting as much product out, and that
Yeah.
this
Totally.
was sort of like a nascent theory. It's like, oh, we're gonna do 1 set a year. That's it. It's our big thing.
Yeah. Premiere Star Trek Limited came out in, I want to say like November, December of '94. We'll get the exact date as we approach the anniversary. Alternate Universe was so then I think they did White Border, 2 print runs of White Border Premiere in '95, Alternate Universe late '95, and yeah, '96 was just I think Q Continuum and some 2 player games maybe. Yeah, there wasn't much in '96, and then yeah, '97 they did this set.
Yeah, it's just a different time when there was a little less, maybe a little more thought put into sets and a little less of a
Yeah,
like, hey,
the world moves
it's
slower in the
January,
gaming world. Yeah.
April, August, December release schedule. Just
Yeah,
so
seriously.
backbreaking as a player. But anyways,
So
I
this
just was
this set would be, no, no, totally. This That would be a huge hit for them. This set took Star Trek CCG. I remember my old Scry magazines where they listed out the top 10 CCGs. Before First Contact, Star Trek CCG was like number 5, 6, or 7th most popular CCG. Star Wars was number 2 after Magic, and then a few other things kind of mixed around in those other places. Yeah, Star Trek was like 5th, 6th, 7th, something like that. After this set, Star Trek would go through a run of years where it was consistently number 3. So Magic, Star Wars, Star Trek. It'd be pretty much every month like that until Pokemon hit the scene, and that shook everything up. But yeah, this sort of entered a golden age for Star Trek CCG. Quickly, well, before we move on to getting into the nuts and bolts of this set, 9-card booster packs. So this is when Star Wars also shifted from 15-card packs to 9-card packs. I think they also they kind of feel like a Dagobah pack. They both come out in 97. They get that real glossy feel to them. 40 common, 40 uncommon, 50 rare, no rare pluses, no ultra rares, no shenanigans like that. Financially, the set is among the more valuable and expensive right now. Kind of always has been. I remember this set was kind of sold out really early on. It was hard to find. Complete set's about $100. But I would say that I'm not sure that number is a little bit fuzzy because no complete set is sold for, I think maybe only one sold in the last 6 months to a year. All the rest are kind of partially or almost complete sets. Booster boxes, $350, $400. Booster packs, $10 to $15 a pack right now. Very low volume of the sets. Not a lot of it out there too, in terms of packs and boxes.
That's the thing about full sets is it is challenging from a time perspective to complete a full set. Right? To actually get all 100 and was it 150 cards or whatever. It's just a task, and to sell it off, it's easier to sell than singles, but the value you're going to get if you ever want to maximize your selling, singles is the way to do it. It's just way more time.
Definitely. This is the first set of any game I ever completed. I just love this movie, love this set, and I think it was late middle school, early high school I was able to complete it. So.
That's pretty cool. All right, should we move on here?
Let's do it. All right, so they shook up the game, totally changed the game with this set. I think Chuck Callenbach, who you interviewed a month or so ago, he was instrumental in coming aboard as a designer for this set and really changing things up. This set is the first new affiliation added since the beginning of the game. So affiliations are your factions for this game. Originally, you have Federation, Klingon, Romulan, and the non-aligned faction. So the Borg are added. And they play totally differently than any of the other affiliations in this game, any of the ones that come before or would come later. A truly asymmetric affiliation. The best example I can give is if we play StarCraft, how the Zerg are different from the Protoss and the Terrans. This affiliation plays totally different rules. So just to go highlight a little bit, missions are irrelevant. They do not solve missions. So they will play mission cards, but the Borg don't attempt them. They don't care about signing treaties, delivering medical supplies. No, all they want to do is consume in this game. So they use a card type called objective that we'll discuss a little bit later. They have the mission card on the table, but then all they'll do is they'll either assimilate the planet, or they will establish a gateway in a space mission to expand their transwarp hub. They have a few other types of ways to score points, but basically they ignore the point box in the mission. And they don't do anything related to the skills of the mission. Instead, they have these objectives which change the requirements of what they're trying to do. And it's very sort of utilitarian and uniform across every planet, assimilate it, every space mission, make a gateway. And they have a few other harder to accomplish objectives as well, which would be for another video. But yeah, your Borg, since most of them are just drones, you just have these universal drones like this guy 2 of 11 here, and they usually have a couple skills and then a special skill. And you have a Borg queen. She's the only not universal personnel, at least in the first set. And she has this weird enigma icon in front of her name, which means she's neither unique nor universal. She exists in a sort of she's an enigma, as we'll say. And she can select any skill, and she can change her skill at the beginning of each turn and do some other stuff. Their ships are giant, as you can see. They have weapons of 24, shield of 24, when compared to the Enterprise, which has a shields of 8 or 9. You can see these things are as fearsome in the game as they are in the shows and movies, but they take a lot of, they require, as you can see, 7 staffing there, different Borg staffing requirements.
Very cool. I really like the Borg. I mean, I didn't realize that the Zerg were kind of ripped off of the Borg. I actually don't know what came first, technically. Probably the Borg. Maybe. Actually, I don't know.
Oh, which came first? The Borg came first. The Borg came out in 88. StarCraft came out in 96, I think. But yeah, the Zerg are kind of I want to say Borg meet Alien from the Aliens films, Xenomorphs. Yeah, also, weird thing with the Borg ships is that if you can succeed in destroying one, this one here gives you 50 points if you can destroy it. So if you, as your opponent, Can destroy a board cube, you are halfway to winning the game.
Okay, what else do we want to talk about here?
Yeah, so mission, they play totally differently. So moved on to other new rules. So beyond the Borg, they did a lot to shake up this game. From one of our previous videos, I think you might remember that we talked about that the basic premier rules of this game are you can only play one card per turn, draw one card per turn. Cards have no like cost, and so the game economy of this game is really weird. The resource mechanic actually is very strange. So they decided to change up a lot of things, make this game more dynamic. So I'll just tick off a few of these rules changes. The space lines, so the missions that we play on the table that make up sort of the game board here now have regions. So some regions that thematically will go together. And you have homeworlds for different affiliations, which allows they'll make more cards for homeworlds later on, but ways to bring more cards into play, report more cards for duty for free at your homeworld become a thing you can do. Downloading. So this is kind of like we might call like tutoring in Magic the Gathering, but going through your deck and getting a particular card becomes a very big part of this game, starting here. So downloading is to go through your deck and take a card out. Special downloads are special skills that are a download, as you can see on this guy Lightner, a little triangle, which means special download Starfleet Type 3 phaser rifle. It'll be downloaded from your deck and given right to him, no matter where he is in the table. He'll get that phaser right there. They'll change the battling rules for personnel battles, which were very basic in the first set. I think it was just like compare power, higher powered side, lower powered side loses one personnel or something like that. Now it's a bit more dynamic. You're making piles of personnel, you're flipping them up, and they're having like one-on-one battles between each other, and then stunning or wounding each other. They added a card type called Objective, which in this set is primarily for the Borg, but will later be used for a wide variety of different types of things you can do. They're basically like a more in-depth verb card, and they in many ways speed up the game depending on the type of objective they are. Some of them are hidden agendas or are played face down.
I think some of these new rules also just reflect the evolving CCG space, like the whole idea of being able to tutor or download something, because you start to realize as you play games that, oh, it doesn't really matter if I have a Darth Vader if I can't get his lightsaber out. It's impossible to find his card.
Exactly.
And, being able to tutor something or find something in your 60 card deck is so important. And that makes those cards really powerful, which is why in Magic you have like whatever, the shock lands or whatever you can pull out a basic land. This land is really good.
Definitely. And then like, for example, like this guy, like a phaser, like in Star Wars, like equipment are not that great in this game, at least in the beginning. So being able to grab one out, grab a phaser can be actually quite powerful, whereas otherwise it's kind of a card you don't love drawing. Probing, this is quite a complicated rule, but it's like drawing Destiny in Star Wars. So it adds a more of a random chance element to the game for certain outcomes which are in doubt. Basically, rather than looking for a number, since these cards don't have Destiny numbers, instead you are looking at the top card of your deck and looking at the card type of it, which can determine certain outcomes. Like in this one, Eliminate Starship, those three icons are the three possible outcomes: wreckage, energy distortion, or collateral damage, or different things that can happen. Mission specialists. So I think we talked about before, there's no cost for any of these personnel. So, your Jean-Luc Picard, which has like, I think 8 skills, he costs 1 card. Or this person no one's ever heard of named Ingi Eiger, who has only 1 skill. Well, she could be your card play also, but why would you ever want to play her? So they came up with this card called Assigned Mission Specialists, which is super important. It's a seed card, so you play at the beginning of the game, and now you can download at the beginning of the game 2 different mission specialists who are defined as personnel who have only 1 skill, like her. Ingi Eiger has geology. So you're going to get 2 of these people for free at the beginning of the game, and whenever they use their skill to solve a mission, you get 5 bonus points. So that can be huge, because let's say you want to build a deck around, I don't know, geology, or like using Ingi Eiger, or maybe a mission with medical. You can have your missions tailored to those particular skills, start those person on the table, and then use them as your mission specialists to score you bonus points, actually speed your way toward winning the game. That's pretty big change to the game.
So I guess as a whole, these rules sort of help modernize Star Trek CCG, and
Yeah,
we kind of teased it at the beginning, but this set acted as a bit of a soft reboot of, hey,
definitely.
3 years have passed in the market, and we've realized what works and what doesn't work. This is our attempt to streamline the game a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're learning from other CCGs, and yeah, figure out how to work within the existing somewhat clunky rules and find ways to speed up the game a bit. Um, New bridge crew. So because First Contact is the next generation film, all of the next generation bridge crew are in here with slightly skills and abilities that reflect how they've changed and what they do in First Contact. So here's three of them. They're pretty fun, and you got the new Enterprise E, which is just a gorgeous looking card right there, flying to the nebula. Um, it turned out to be a little bit difficult to use in the game because it introduced this Enterprise E icon. So this like Starfleet comm badge is in the like sort of the left bottom side there, and the Enterprise E requires two people with that comm badge on them, which are only the main characters from this set. So a little difficult to use, but it's still an iconic, beautiful looking card.
Is this also sort of what I guess the most valuable cards from the set? Or
Yeah, it's going to be the Bridge Crew and the Borg Queen, which was on one of the previous pages. I haven't price checked all these recently, but that's what, yeah, almost certainly the Bridge Crew and the Borg Queen and the Enterprise E.
yeah, because the Borg Queen also got turned into an ultra rare in Reflections, I think,
Yeah.
right? I've seen that around.
She's just really great. She's just a really powerful card. Yeah, just to finish things off, as Decipher loves to do, there is an enhanced version of this set, Enhanced First Contact, which came out 2 years later. I won't go into too much of it today, but I'll just say that they did a couple fun things, like some very dodgy photoshopping of characters from outside the franchise, outside of First Contact, but from like, this is Gowron from the Next Generation Deep Space Nine as a Borg, as like an alternate parallel universe version of him. And so, yeah, the Enhanced First Contact, you got one of these photoshopped, what they call counterparts. So like assimilated heroes for the Borg in each box. And you also got 2 other premium cards and 4 packs of First Contact. I put this one up here because it is a very strange, and I would say I think it's a totally unique card for Decipher games. We won't read everything here, add distinctiveness, but if you're behind by 40 points, once per game, you may open a sealed First Contact expansion pack, of which 4 are included in the box, and play or place in hand any or all non-seed cards in that pack, because it is a Borg card, just for Borg. And non-Borg cards are immediately assimilated, become Borg, and place the others out of play. So that, I think, is the only card in which opening a booster pack is a rule on a card.
I think there's so many funny things they experimented with, and Star Trek had a bit of this, but wasn't there a card that if it's a gambling mechanic, like if you win this game, then you're the most valuable card, which
it's called Raise the Stakes. It's from Premier. It's not your most valuable card. I think it's just randomly selected from their deck, but yeah, it's an anti thing, and it's the only card that Decipher banned during their run of any of their game. Well, at least of their Star Wars and Star Trek games. I can't remember if Lord of the Rings, but I think it was banned cards. But yeah, they banned it because anti not good, not good on the schoolyard.
Yeah, it seems like, oh, you came home with 6 less cards. What happened? There's a card they played. Yeah, it's just interesting that to try to break that. Was it fourth wall, third wall? And I think other games do this. So we talk about MetaZoo doing it with like clouds, you outside and you get +2 power, but. I think sometimes that stuff doesn't tend to work well because people want to live in their little imagined universe. They're playing the game and they don't really want to be betting.
Yeah, the opening an expansion pack thing. I remember when I got this card, I'm like, I'm playing at home. I don't have any expansion packs that are sealed. But I guess if you're in a local game store, the local game store owner likes this card.
Yeah. Well, this is a great example of how a lot of these games chose to do soft reboots or introduce a bunch of new elements to bring new players in and new elements and new cards, because the scene in the late 90s was evolving so quickly with what people expected. And I think Star Trek started out a pretty clunky and slow game, and it evolved. And I think when you get to second edition, it's like, this is actually pretty streamlined, and that's what the game needed more. Unfortunately, by the time second edition came out, the writing was kind of on the wall, I think, for the game writ large. But it's funny you mentioned the Fleer Star Trek game. I've seen that game around, and it is virtually worthless and looks terrible.
It does look really bad. It looks, I mean, it looks like it looks like a mediocre trading card. Never played it, but yeah.
Yeah, same. Well, any kind of final thoughts here on First Contact and the impact it had on Star Trek,
No,
and
I mean
maybe
it ushered in a golden age for this game. I mean, I think I switched from primarily playing Star Wars to like playing a ton of this for a while, and yeah, maybe in the future we can go through some of the other golden age of Star Trek CCG expansions that came after it.
remind me how many Star Trek sets were there? Were there like 30 plus? It seems like every time, like I've never heard of
Um,
that one.
no, I think if you count first and second together, there's 30 plus. I think. Yeah, I got I think maybe like 20 if you count the boutique products, like the enhanced.
But not
Yeah.
not as much as I thought. I for some reason I thought there was like 30 plus, and that's just like a
Oh,
daunting.
it's funny. Yeah. So I mean, fandom.com lists motion pictures. This last full size set is the 29th expansion. And then if you include All Good Things and the Enterprise Collection, that would be 31 expansions. But I think they're counting like all the enhanced, the various starter deck variations. They're probably more than I would count. But yeah, not that many. There were not 31 full size expansions.
All right. Well, we're going to explore this game a bit more as we celebrate 30 years, which is a long time. And so it's amazing how well stuff has aged. I'll tell you, I am over 30 years old, and I don't feel like I've aged as well as some of these games. So, well, thanks for hanging out, Steve. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Like, subscribe, stay tuned for more Star Trek stuff, as well as a bunch of other dead CCGs and some living ones. So we'll catch everybody next time.